Massenomics.
Thanks for what you do with your podcast and all the rest. You're doing a great job. Hope everybody keeps tuning in. You get a lot of good info, a lot of insights, understandings of how to get strong, how to stay strong, how to use your strength.
You do a great job, dude. You make things better than they are in real life, I think.
If you don't follow Massenomics, y'all do it. Social media, website, everything.
Massenomics.
Yeah.
Welcome to Massenomics, the world's strongest podcast. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Massenomics. Make sure you go visit Massenomics.com. There you'll find the rest of our powerful content. While you're there, check out our store and buy yourself some of that sweet Massenomics gear.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 161 of the Massenomics podcast, a.k.a. the world's strongest podcast, a.k.a. the lifting podcast about nothing. Your favorite two hosts are here again this week, Tommy and Tanner. Tommy, I believe you just got back from down south. You were visiting Canada, is that right?
Yep, our neighbors to the south.
Which we have determined is actually...
Depending on where you're at, they are our neighbors to the south.
Yeah.
I guess technically for us, some of them are, yeah.
Like our friend Big Kyle Hendricks
Exactly.
is our Canadian neighbor to the south.
That's right.
So is that where you
But
visiting?
I was actually in Florida, though. This was slightly farther south. Not a lot, but a little bit. And, I had to go to a wedding and got to take in the Florida sights and sounds. Anytime, like, you can go to a wedding that's in a nice place and you can kind of almost turn it into a vacation, too. Like, that's kind of a nice little bonus,
Yeah.
So I went to the Clearwater Beach area, which was my first time in that area. The only other time I'd been to Florida, I went on a cruise one time. We stopped in Key West, which is kind of like a weird little place.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I guess, yeah, it has like Florida weather and stuff, but it's not like, probably not the Florida you think of when you think of Florida.
Yeah.
And this was much more like, in my mind, it felt like Florida.
Was the water clear?
I didn't think it really was at all, to be honest. Like, I'm no ocean expert, but I've been in the ocean in a few places, and okay, the beach in Clearwater Beach is massive. Like, I don't know, it might be from when you step on the beach to where you touch the water, it might be 200 yards or more. It's super wide, and it goes for miles and miles and miles. But the thing about the ocean there is, it's like the lake here. There's like no current to it. Like, there's no like waves. There's like no current. The water's, I don't know. It's kind of like a lake. It's not super clear, but it's not like super dark either. And so, like, if you like want to go and like play in the waves and like, maybe I caught it at a bad time, but it just seemed like it was super, super mellow.
Yeah.
Compared to like when we were in Hawaii a few months ago. I mean, there was literally one day I couldn't go in the water because the waves were so intense. Like, I thought I would maybe die. I did go in, but I got slammed so hard that I was like, I'm not doing that again. Like, I realized I have no power against this.
Yeah.
Like, it was brutal.
So you didn't go surfing?
So I did not go surfing. Didn't even see anyone attempting it.
Was the water warm or
it
cold?
was. Oh, I mean, to me, it felt good. Like, it wasn't. I was in San Diego like a year ago, and that water was much colder than this.
Okay.
Which I guess maybe makes a little bit of sense. But
yeah.
the one thing that surprised me about this trip, and there's probably people listening that do a lot more traveling than me. I get on an airplane probably 2 to 3 times a year, I'd say, is about my number, which I think is probably an average amount, maybe even more than average.
Probably more than average.
Probably. Yeah. And so I'm on the plane, and we fly from our small town to Minneapolis, and then the plane goes from Minneapolis to Tampa.
Yeah.
And the Minneapolis to Tampa flight was I think one of the newer like Airbus planes. Like, it was a nice plane, nicer than the ones I normally ride. Mm-hmm. And so it's fairly big. I don't know what those have, 40 rows in them maybe. And normally flight attendants are very friendly and nice people. And I got some signs. I got some actual rudeness from a flight attendant, and I was almost offended by it. And
what did you done?
I'm not the type of guy that just gets offended by things, but I thought there's a certain level of rudeness when it's like, if I'm in a restaurant and you're a waitress and you're being rude, like, your only job is to serve me and wait on me.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm not being a dick, you have no reason to be upset at me.
Right.
And that's kind of how I feel about flight attendants. Like, your job is literally to provide me with a happy flight.
And especially if you're not being a prick to begin. If you're being
and so this is how it starts. My wife and I have started Game of Thrones, and we're trying to just marathon our way through the series.
Yeah.
So as soon as we can get the laptop out and be like in the zone on Game of Thrones, we're in the zone, which I think is fair. I think most people on the plane are doing something similar to that.
Yeah.
And so we're in row, like, I think 24. So we're about the halfway mark in the plane, and we're listening, and the person comes by, and right away, like, we see them coming. So I have one headphone out of my ear already, and they're getting close. And while they're getting close, I'm bending over to get my backpack under the seat. All right, no big deal. The attendant says, "Ladies, is there something you would like?" Now, I get called a lady because I have long hair.
And a beard.
It comes with the, and so I'm bent over, so all she can see is hair.
Yeah.
So she says, "Ladies, what would you like?" Now, I can handle that. If I couldn't handle that, I wouldn't have long hair.
Right.
It comes with the territory.
Right.
You're going to get called a lady sometimes. I can laugh about it. I don't care. No big deal. So it's fine. It's fine. Most people say I'm sorry. But this is the first sign. She just says, "Ladies, can I get you something?" And I look right at her. She stares right at me. Doesn't say anything or smile or anything. I'm like, well, it's kind of weird that you clearly know I'm not a lady, and you're not even apologizing for it. Like,
not even acknowledging that.
Okay.
You just,
Okay, sure. All right, whatever. I'll just get over that one. I'll let that one slide. Then she goes, "Snack?" And I was like, normally I feel like they don't say snack. They say cookies or like mix.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, well, what are the choices?" And she stops and gives me a look like, and I was like,
that was apparently the wrong question.
yeah. And so I'm like, okay, I'm waiting.
Yeah.
And she goes, cookies. And right away I'm like, oh, I want the cookies. So I go, cookies. And she keeps going. She says, peanuts. I go, cookies. She says, the mix. I said, cookies. And she says one more thing. I said, cookies. And then she gives them to me. So at this point now, you are called me a lady. You're mad that I asked what the snacks are. You say the first snack, and I say I want that one. And then you say a
keep
second
going.
one. I also say I want the first one. You say the third one. I again say I want the first one. You say the fourth one, and I still say I want the first one.
Were you getting mad at that?
And at this point, I'm like, wow, this lady is really, really annoying. And like, I'm thinking like, maybe I'm in my own head about this too much.
Yeah.
And she goes by, and I say to my wife, I go, "Leah, was that lady kind of rude?" "Yeah, she was pretty rude." I'm like, all right. So I wasn't the only one here. And that was probably the first rude flight attendant I've encountered.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
It's
not good.
I don't know if it was a jealousy thing or if she just had it out for
She
me.
must have just woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I've been on some military planes where it's like a commercial air. Like when I've flown overseas, it's like a commercial airline, but it was all military people on the plane. But it's like flight attendants on a. It's just on a really big plane like you'd
But
get
I
on
mean, they are like regular commercial flight attendants,
yes,
right?
they're commercial flight
But they're
attendants.
only serving military people.
A plane full of people, military people in uniform, and it's like mostly all men and like, like
just guys being
average
guys.
army grunts, like that aren't, I mean,
Some of these guys, they've probably only been on a plane one or two other times.
kind of get wild and stuff like that, but the worst
Really?
flight attendant. Like I've never, and I kind of took it with a grain of salt because I understand.
They're
Like,
this not ideal
yeah,
situations.
like you're probably not enjoying your job right now either, I suppose. But it's also like it's probably still kind of your job not to just be mean for like because like I'm not doing anything to upset them personally. Like I'm not. I'm behaving and following their rules and stuff like that. Like you don't really have to be mean to me just because you don't really like being here.
Don't just lump me in with everyone else.
Right. But I can't. It's been too long to remember the specifics. But I'll never forget. Like, wow, that is the worst flight attendant experience I've ever encountered. I can't picture it being worse.
See, I can give
kind
them
of a special circumstance.
Yeah, I think they kind of get a pass there. It'd be like almost if you worked in a restaurant and two busloads of high school boys come in, you'd be like, oh, God, I'm probably not getting any tips out of this.
Right.
They're going to be assholes the whole time. Like, you just know what you're getting into. But I did feel like I was being cordial and nice, and that's why I got caught so off guard in the whole thing.
A paying customer.
I am a paying customer. I don't know if you check, but airline fleet ticket prices typically aren't cheap either.
Exactly.
So, just want to watch my show, eat my cookie, and be left alone. That's too much to ask in this day and age.
Not to me.
But yeah, otherwise, Florida, Florida was good. Beaches are good.
Did you see any of those guys from the headlines? Florida man?
No, I didn't. I had my eye out, but I didn't see any of them.
Well, I saw you in the paper. It said Florida man went to wedding and nothing real crazy happened.
Yeah, that was the one. Yep, that was me. Crazy stuff.
And came back.
Tanner, you also did some traveling this weekend.
I did. I traveled to.
I don't know if yours was as fun as mine.
Probably not.
Maybe it had the intentions of being fun and it changed in a hurry.
I went to T, South Dakota. Technically, I believe we talked about that. It's next to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Mm-hmm. It's like a little 3-hour drive. For us, in the context of doing strength sports in South Dakota, is about the most optimal location.
3-hour drive. It's like that's it.
Yeah, that's
like,
an easy deal.
Up.
Yeah, compared to some times when we go 6 hours to find a competition, but. Did a South Dakota Strongest Man there. I think we talked about this maybe last week or the week before that I was doing that. Competed in the heavyweight division, and I'll just go a little. Won't talk about this forever because we got some other super important stuff to get here.
Always.
Yeah, but I'll just go chronologically a little bit. There was 5 events on the day. The first event was the log press, which was for the heavyweight men. My division was 255 pounds for clean and press away as many reps as you can in a minute. And I ended up with 6, which was really good for me. That was a pretty good PR. I was pretty pumped about that. I think maybe had I took a little break in between there. Maybe had I pushed it harder, maybe I could have tried for 7. But I don't know. I was happy with 6.
But to hit a PR in competition, that's always ideal.
Yep. And it's been a while since I've competed, so for that first event, it was fun to feel the
excitement of competition
where I'm like,
again.
Oh damn! Like it had been a while where I'm
so not counting like the Massenomics Strongman, how would it have been? Like 2 years?
Probably a year and a half. Since I've done some. Yeah, so probably a year and a half. And also the warming up for a strongman like that. At the time I was like, damn, this is considerably harder than warming up for powerlifting because typically the implement that you're warming up on is also the implement that is going to be used, and everyone has to use that one, or if you're lucky, maybe there's 2 of them. Mm-hmm. So you really are at the mercy of the collective group and the timeline, which they did keep the whole day. The whole event was rolling really good. So kudos to them of keeping it rolling quick, but that puts a lot of pressure on you as far as the warm up of like, if you're screwing around, like messing with your shoes and changing things and not ready to go, you'll miss
you just missed your warm up.
No, and that actually worked out. I got kind of worried about it at times. I'm like, oh geez, I need to take like smaller jumps, or this isn't the weight that I want, or I didn't do as many. But all in all, I think it worked out well. I took a couple bigger jumps, and then it just felt easy anyways, so I wasn't wasting as much energy.
Yeah.
But so log went good. Then second event was axle deadlift off of wagon wheels, which in training, the last day I went heavy, it went really well for me. I did our competition weight was 550 for as many reps as you can do in a minute. And my last training day, heavy training day, was like 2.5 or 3 weeks out. And I did the competition weight for 3 sets of 5. And on every set, I felt like I knew I could have done more reps. Yep. And it really felt really good. It finally clicked on that. It took me quite a while. That position of the wagon wheel height and it being an axle is really an
So what really, do you think is worse, the axle or the height?
I don't know. The combination of the two is what really makes it
I guess
suck.
that is an option too.
The axle, the thickness puts it farther away from your body.
Oh, yeah.
Which that is awkward. The being forced to use straps by it being an axle is, a lot of people, I think enjoy using straps probably. Straps mess up my setup. I just don't use them. I used to training over under grip for powerlifting and not using straps. So the having to use straps, the being a little farther away from your body, the height and everything. And almost everyone I talk to agrees that it's a really that axle from that height is really an awkward
That's just
pull.
A tough combo.
Yeah, like it's a really awkward pull, and just about everyone agreed. I didn't talk to anyone that was like, this is the advantageous deadlift for me.
This is where I come alive.
Right. So I kind of think it sucks equally for everyone, but my honest expectation, if I was feeling good, I was hoping to get 10. Mm-hmm. I did the first. I guess I'd say this. After that good training day, I noticed my lower back had been bothering me, and it kind of got worse every week leading up to it. I was doing less and less, you know, putting less load on it, but it was just feeling worse and worse and worse. And then, like, the full week leading up to the competition, I basically didn't do anything that would aggravate it whatsoever, and I was kind of hoping that I'd go into it and, you know, with the time off, that it would feel good and feel recovered. And I did the first rep, and I was like, oh, this does not feel like I want it to. And I did the second rep, and I was like, well, that feels even worse than that. I thought that it couldn't feel worse than that first rep.
How much of a hole do we want to dig
and that
ourselves
second
right
one,
now?
I was like, that feels even worse. And then I like literally paused at the bottom of the third one, and I was like debating of whether I was going to continue to go. And then for a second I was like, oh, I think I can do another one. And I went to pull on, and I was like, oh, that hurts.
Yeah.
And I stopped there, and because I was like, I was going to be lucky to squeeze out like 4. You
Which
know,
at that point, the difference
then
between
it's
2 and 4
no,
is...
there was no difference.
Okay,
And I
so
literally
yeah.
had that thought in my head. I was like, is there any reason to do this? And it's like, well, no, there's not, because I'm not going to get the 10 I want. If I would have been able to go to that level, it would be worth keeping
you're at
going.
8, and it's like, well, do we need 2 more?
Right. Then it's worth it. But at the point I was like, it's not even worth it. I'm going to hurt my back worse, and then I'm not going to be able to compete in the other events. So I stopped there. Wasn't a huge deal, because I, you know, mentally I knew that my back was maybe be an issue. So I was kind of already knew that it was possible that I'd have to just back out of that event to a degree and keep going on the others. So then the next event was the yoke carry. Ours was
typically, when you say your back hurts, the yoke is like not the one you want to go to next.
No, and the way my back pain has been, it's really the deadlift of like the
weight in front of
the
you,
weight out in front of my body, you know, like that is what's really bothering me, and being bent over in, you know, kind of the deadlift position. So the way I am with a yoke and can keep a vertical upright back, it really hadn't bothered at all. So I was like, well, deadlift sucked, but we got the yoke here, and my yoke training had gone really well, actually, so I was pretty optimistic that I could do well there. And our weight was 675, and it was 50 feet down and back. I made it about 3/4 the way down the first 50 feet, and I was making a very good time for myself.
Great.
You know,
it looked pretty effortless.
Yeah. Had I finished the whole thing, I would have had a good competitive time. I think I was on pace for like a 20-second run, which would have been good for me, you know, based on what my training was going like. But I took a step. We were on turf, like a padded turf, which was a little bit different. I'm used to training on concrete.
Yeah, especially with something like a yoke where you have all that weight on you, like a difference in feel. It is pretty big. Like even the last few years, you know, we've like at the Massenomics Strongman, going from training on cement to even kind of that gravelly texture felt different. Even.
Yes, and it is. So it was going really good, but I took a step and never had this feeling before in my life because I've never done this before. But my right knee buckled in, you know, in my body towards your other knee. Yeah, towards my other knee, and I felt it pop immediately. You know, I could, you know, that you get that feeling like you almost feel like you can hear it pop. And I don't know if I could hear it pop, but I have that feeling where it
like
goes,
you know, like this hasn't happened.
Yeah, right.
This isn't good.
And you know, then that second almost feels like it plays out like I have 1,000 thoughts in that 1 second.
Yes.
And like almost where in my mind I was thinking, oh, can I keep going? But like when I watch it on video, there's no thought. You know, I drop it immediately and gonna back away from it and walk away, and then I realize, oh, my right leg isn't like
working the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, right. It's not. I can't put any weight on it. And I take a few steps, and then I kind of go and sit on the ground off on the side, and it didn't hurt. It wasn't like an excruciating pain, you know, when it happened.
Yeah. It wasn't like you slammed your finger with a hammer.
Right. I wasn't like, I was more like and also it's tough because you have a lot of
you're kind of almost more in like a little bit of shock.
Right. I kind of like shocked, and I'm like, oh man, what did I just do? And even for a split second there, I'm like, did I just quit and I should have kept going? Like, is this not anything?
Yeah, am I just panicking?
Yeah, right. So then I like get up after a couple minutes of sitting there, and I can't really tell what's going on, and I try to put like see if I can put any weight on it. And it doesn't hurt that bad, but like my knee felt like it was like in almost like a
Jello.
Yes.
A Jello suspension.
Like Jello, like where it's just gonna slide around. But then I sat around for a couple hours and started to feel a little bit better. Like I had something I could use as like almost a cane, could walk around, and then even set that down, and I could kind of limp around on it. I wasn't really sure, but anyways, didn't continue competing, so I skipped the sandbag event and the Atlas Stone event. I was really looking forward to doing the Atlas Stones.
Mm-hmm.
My training had gone really well on that.
I mean, and plus they're just a fun event to do.
Yeah, and it's just a lot of fun, and I was really looking forward to doing it in competitions. Probably, I don't know if that it's my personally best, but it might be my favorite to do in a competition. But I didn't get to do that. That was probably the most frustrating part. Anyways, I went to the orthopedic surgeon, got it checked out. I haven't had my MRI yet, but he checked it out and said it's pretty confident that's either ACL tear or meniscus tear, but he kind of leaned more towards the meniscus tear, and based on what he said and like what it feels like to me, I think that might be the case too, that it's not that I know what I'm talking about, but kind of going off of what he said, I feel like
my
it's
expert opinion that I now have.
I feel like it's probably could be a meniscus tear, and so that I did not finish.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you got to walk away with a back injury and a knee injury.
Yeah. The back I'm not so worried about. It's almost more like I just have something's.
It's probably just a little agitated.
Like I feel like some
inactivity.
lessening the activity on it. That's going to be better in time.
Well, your knee will take care of the lessening of activity for you. So
that is exactly what I thought in my mind. I was like, well, the back's going to be fine because I'm not going to be able to do anything now for. I have my MRI in like a week, and then I talked to him, and at the time he said there's probably like an 80% chance I would need surgery. But I'm sure there's a lot of people out there listening that have torn ligaments in their knee before. It's fairly common in sports and stuff like that. And based on what I've talking to him and, talking to others, I feel it's, in time I'll be able to squat just like I would want to squat.
You'll be stronger than you ever were.
Superhuman. But so now my silver, I've been trying not to be, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer about it. So I've been looking at the bright side, and I certainly have plenty of time to bench press now.
That is the big one.
So I did say that I Monday I went back to the gym right away. It's pretty refreshed because I had kind of deloaded for this meet, and then I did the log press, but then I half-assed did the deadlift, and then did half
a 30-foot walk.
Right. So I was like, well, I feel great actually, aside from my knee being blown out. Like the rest of me feels good. So I had a best bench day I've had in a long time because I took I didn't press for like 10 days really. So bench felt great. So I was like, oh, I guess at least that's a post ACL tear bench press PR.
Well, and most importantly, now you are on the
road to recovery. Exactly.
I mean, when hashtag road to recovery kicks in,
everything's a PR
limit.
now. Like as soon as I can squat and deadlift again, that's like I don't have to wait for real PRs. I just have a post recovery PRs.
You know what they say? Be afraid, very afraid of a man on a comeback.
That's right.
You're going to be on a comeback pretty soon.
I'm Kenan.
Yeah, that's right.
I do.
Other bright things to look at with this, Tanner, is from a financial perspective, you're putting money towards your insurance deductible fairly early in the year.
Oh, my insurance deductible is we have a high deductible plan, and it will be met.
There you go.
An MRI.
Family, do whatever you got to do.
I had to get X-rays, which that's a significant. Seeing the orthopedic surgeon once. I'll get MRI, which that alone I believe is enough for me to.
I don't think those are cheap.
No. And then meeting with them again, and then potentially surgery. Mm-hmm. So there will be no issue of hitting the deductible this year.
Go.
And I also got to hit it last year, so fortunately it's 2 years in a row.
Defending champion of deductible over here.
But I do think I'm going to use this opportunity. I have nothing else to focus on. So in June in the USPA meet that we're sponsoring, I'm planning on doing the bench only.
Are you really?
Yeah.
This is the perfect opportunity to do it.
And I'm going to try to hit. My real goal is to hit a bench press PR.
That'd be pretty awesome.
So
competition PR or all-time PR.
Well, I don't know that I can break my all-time PR to competition
competition
standard.
PR is really what matters, though. So.
Yeah, so that's kind of my thing that I'm gonna.
Yeah, that's give you something to shoot for.
Yeah, exactly. Keep me something to lift for.
Yeah.
For the short term at least, and keep me from being too much of a downer about that. I do think though. I was leaning towards this even before the competition. My thought was, I have been getting injured more doing strongman stuff.
The strongman has not been kind to you. I was going to say lately, but I shouldn't even say lately. And going back a while now.
And every year that I get older, I'm not getting younger. And
Shit
I don't like to use it as an
I
don't like to use it as an excuse because I still don't think I'm so old that there's people far older than me that would still compete in strongman, but I also think maybe everyone's body is a little bit different, and very possible that I don't do everything with perfect technique, and maybe that causes injuries too. I can't just blame my body, it's probably some of my own doing. But fact of the matter is, I've been getting relatively serious injuries competing in strongman. I was kind of planning on this being my last one, and tearing my knee kind of solidifies that I probably will not come back to strongman quick because
you're not gonna be ready to make a comeback to strongman when you're 35 or on the other side of 35.
And the events that are out there now that I don't have to consciously think about something that I injured doing them before, not to worry about doing again. Would not be excited about going and doing a heavy yoke again in my life now.
Oh yeah,
basically because that was it felt so good right until that one step that I took. I'm I don't know what I did wrong. I don't feel like I did, I don't feel like something
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not qualified to even have an opinion or anything, but it just seems like if something was going to happen, that all of the wear and tear and training would have done it.
Yeah.
It's just strongman's hard on a person's body.
Right.
It is.
So I do feel like I'm more likely to be able to compete in powerlifting more.
Oh, it's
safely
a much lower impact sport.
Yeah, for sure.
No doubt about that.
The moving with the weights
it's for some reason outside of strongman, there's not a lot of times you have to load 600 plus pounds on your back and run around with it.
Right.
And unless you're really training for that, it's not the safest position to be in a lot of times.
I am probably afraid that my best days of strongman are behind me at this point.
Well,
I'm not really afraid. It's more I'm not even disappointed about that. But if this didn't make me realize that,
You shook your hands with strongman and said it was fun while it lasted.
That's kind of what it was like, because I even told my family, this might, because they want to know if they should come or not, and they enjoy watching this stuff, and I kind of mentioned, not sure if I'll gonna really do many of these again after this.
So this could be one of your last chances.
Right. And then once that happened, I'm like, well,
I went out with a bang, guys.
Yeah,
I could feel it. It's like when a mom says she knows she's having a boy. You're like, I know I'm having an injury.
I can just feel, yes.
But
it was still fun though. I mean, I wasn't I didn't leave being this has ruined my life.
Yeah,
or,
I hate these events. I hate the promoters. I hate the sport.
No, I thought it was a really quickly run meet and run well, and I think the events were set up cool. And the thing even at sitting there hurt. I was like, gosh, I'm just disappointed I didn't get to do the Atlas stones.
Yep.
That was the biggest.
The one thing I had to look forward to, and my body took it from me.
Right.
Well, I would say there is something to having that level of self-awareness to be like, oh, you know what,
Maturity,
I can be happy.
probably.
Yes, I can be happy about what it was and not be always saying I'm on some comeback or I'll be back in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. And I don't even think that's called being a quitter. I think it's just being well, I mean, really, what are you going to do at let's say you make a comeback at a run at this again, and at 38 you want to do it again.
Right.
Okay, you can, but I mean, you're not going to.
I'm not going to be.
You're not going to be. You're still in the open class. You're not going to be You're not going to come back in the absolute best shape of your life at 38.
And I could that's a realistic scenario that could happen. Maybe I would do that, but if I do, it's probably going to be like, well, let's just see if I can just still do this.
Like,
and
go have fun.
Yeah,
and then
right,
just like pray
right.
to God I don't get
that would
wrecked
be
again.
that would really be the thing. It's like, but what am I going to hurt now? It's 5
Yeah.
years later that, you know, and I mean, realistically, I've been 10 years ago is when I started squatting and deadlifting heavy and stuff. So it's like been 10 years of, you know, I never stopped like in 10 years. And I still don't think that that's like, I don't want to use that as an excuse because I don't want to like feel like I'm making excuses because I don't also really like that's doing that. But I think that's just a realistic thing. You know, that everyone's probably only got so
and you're
many.
Not, and you're not saying you're going to quit training or
No,
anything.
no.
You'll probably even do some strongman stuff in your training still.
Right.
But it's like saying if you're just like you had shoulder pain for a while.
Yeah.
If you had shoulder injury after shoulder injury after shoulder injury, would you be like, I'm still going to do bench nationals?
Oh, right,
Like,
exactly.
It's like at some point you just got to be like,
Yeah.
this is a sport that almost no one cares about. What am I wrecking myself for here?
Right.
And I'm saying that as a person that's a fan of the sport even.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Right. Right.
You know?
And it's like to be like, so my best case scenario, if I'm on my best day, I win like South Dakota's strongest man against a couple people.
Well, it's like the same thing of like it's like the
That's
same
not-
thing of
not
like
gonna be better
the
than
college
that,
athlete
you know?
that's had their 6th knee surgery and is like,
Right.
my life is this game. It's like, well,
It's like you're gonna be done in a year
yeah,
from that, you know.
you're
like,
gonna be done with like a minor in business and like a major in some like human resources. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if having 6 knee surgeries is like good for your resume or really even a good life story. Maybe says persistence and maybe also says you're dumb. I don't know. Like,
Well,
you know?
that kind of is, you know, that kind of is the line of like, where is it?
Like there is a thing called quality of life after the age of 35, and like,
Right.
you got to keep that in mind at some point.
Yes, I agree. So in the future, I'll probably, but right now I'm just focused on bench, and I'd like to be able to
Back to
hit a
where it
big
all
bench.
started.
Yeah,
right?
yep. That's what. And part of me is like, well, I do like benching, and it is much easier than that other stuff. So I guess it'll be.
It's not the worst position to be in. Yeah.
So that's that. That's about it of that.
Might, depending on how you look at things, you might think that sounds grim or optimistic.
Yeah,
It's kind of your take.
yeah, that's right.
But I guess maybe we should talk about people that can still perform at optimal
Yeah.
performance.
Some people that can.
There's only a few left in the world, but the Kern US Open was this past weekend,
I've
and
heard about that.
there was some really big lifts.
There was. This will actually be like a big lift segment because
This kind of so this is a 2-for-1. It's the what happened in lifting this week plus big lifts mixed in, and before we even get into the details, we talked a lot about there will be dropouts. Mm-hmm. There was dropouts, and there was more dropouts, and there was even a few more dropouts.
In addition to the ones we knew about a week out, there was more.
Yeah, so I don't know what the deal is.
Steve Johnson didn't compete, and I saw Nick Best didn't compete. Those are a few that we thought maybe were and weren't. It got towards, like, for the super heavyweight and 308 and, it got to be like, who is anyone competing that we know at all?
Yeah, and you don't want, if someone is hurt or whatever's going on, you don't want them to show up and just have a shitty day or hurt themselves more. But that's the thing that sucks about being a fan of this sport.
Yeah,
is that, and I'm like putting quotes. Yeah, I mean, they're athletes, but it's like you can't. If the point of a sport is to have a competition, it just gets tough to be a fan when, like, at any given point, a competition has like anywhere from 10 to 30% of the people not being able to make it. You know? And, it sucks. I mean, it's a lot of things that are outside most people's control, but so that was the first thing.
Yep.
But that aside, there were still some great competitors that showed up.
And some really crazy numbers,
Really crazy number, especially on the women's side, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I don't know. Do we want to talk like open powerlifting? They were there. They ran the meet with their open lifter software.
So did you hear from any of the people? Like, did you hear them say anything like that went really well?
I believe it did.
Okay.
Yeah, I got the impression it did. And I don't know if we ever talked about this, but like I got to work with the guys in making that software for them. So it was like kind of cool to see. We were both out of town, so we basically didn't get it. I don't think you got really a chance to watch the live stream at all.
No. I have in the past years.
I was out traveling around, and so I couldn't really talk my wife into just sitting around and doing nothing all day and watching powerlifting.
Yeah.
So, we were out doing touristy things.
Had you not been in Florida, she would have wanted to sit around and watch powerlifting.
Yes, like we always do. We would sit down and watch the meet every Saturday that's going on.
Do you think my guess, without even knowing the software very well, like, will that kind of become the standard? Would you guess?
Well, that's the hopeful goal. But so what I was saying is, they had, this was kind of the first big meet. They were going to run their new Open Lifter software, and I was able to work with them and build the interface out for that, and just trying to do something new and different, and hopefully better in every way than some of the previous solutions out there. So this was kind of the first big test, and the impression I got from some of the feedback I saw looking around was that it went pretty well, and people were excited about it. So that's still, as far as a product or an idea goes, it's still fairly young in its lifetime. But I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and I know the guys over at the Open Powerlifting team are like really pushing and developing that. So it's exciting to see where that could go. And
that's a good tool. Like, I could picture that.
Well, and then the thing is, like, it works perfectly with their thing. Is like, okay, if people start using that, it's in the format they want it in, which is the whole issue with.
So is it an easy way to shoot that to them?
Yes, in theory, yes, it should be much easier for them to just get and go with and be good. Where it's like they're not getting some scanned in PDF that has pencil and pen marks through it.
So for them in the long run, it could really
makes work
streamline the process.
And I think too, I mean, then I think it addresses some issues for even spectators and fans,
meet directors
and meet directors and even loaders. There's some different things with like weights coming up, and
just from the little bit I've seen, it's like much more, maybe intuitive,
not
and like
Excel.
Right.
So so it's got a lot going on for it, but I was pretty excited to see that finally kind of out in the wild. And so with that though, because Open Powerlifting was doing it, they got the meet up right away, as quick as you possibly could.
What about before the numbers even? What is the deal with the stage?
So from what I understand, they always it's on a stage, which I guess makes sense in that powerlifting happens on the ground, so if you can raise it up, that more people can see it. But what I believe happened is that the way the stage was put together is when things are engineered to support a certain amount of weight, it's not with the idea that you're dropping 1,000 pounds on it.
Right.
Like, this stage can support 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, whatever, however many pounds it's designed.
But you're not dropping.
People usually aren't with the idea that, I'm going to drop 3,000 pounds down on it or 900 plus or whatever it is repeatedly. And I think what started to happen is like it was starting to actually damage and like compress the stage, I believe is what was going on.
Okay.
And with that, it started to warp the actual like platform that the guys were deadlifting on. And so you could see like it was like a like a wet noodle flopping around, like a skateboard ramp,
To me, that looked terrible. Like, I don't know if it was really an issue or not, but just aesthetically, it was terrible.
Yeah, when the front of the deadlift platform is literally like flopping around in the air, like
absolutely horrible.
It looks like like someone's going to be severely hurt. It's like what it looks like, or it raises a lot of questions because you I've never seen that before,
Right. And it's last year it seemed to be a big deal was like the walkouts on the squat were really wobbly because of the stage or something like that.
Yeah, and I think there's some complaints maybe about the kabuki bar last year or something.
Right. And this year is what I seem to. I mean, I didn't even really look at comments, but as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Oh, everyone's going to be talking about this thing."
The first when you say Kaylor Williams deadlift, you're like, "Well, there's something very different than a normal deadlift video going on here," and we all know what it is.
Well, and it is. I don't, not even saying it's anyone's fault, and there's obviously still bugs to be worked out.
It's like,
process,
how do you test that? Oh, just go get another guy that can deadlift 900 and tell him to do a few reps.
Yeah, exactly. But it is like, it kind of sucks because this is supposed to be like maybe the premier meet of the year, and every time
one of the top 5 of the year,
and every time like that looks like crap.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. And I haven't done enough digging, but I thought I saw some things like some people were maybe saying like they couldn't get a proper deadlift set up with that.
I feel like the bar, like it would maybe almost roll or something. Like it was so slanted if you were in a funny spot, maybe. But the one thing I saw was Kaylor said everyone shut up about the stage. It wasn't that big of a deal, and he's the one lifting the most weight on it. So I kind of take his word for.
Yeah. So if he's going to say it's fine, then I guess you guys kind of got to take his word for it.
Right.
And say like, oh, he says it's good, so it's got to be good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did have a good look to it. Feel like if you're playing basketball and every time someone shot or dunked, the whole rim is just flying around. Like, I don't think that's how it's supposed to work,
And if it was happening in the NBA championship.
Yes.
You'd be like, geez, wouldn't they get something better for the championship of the NBA?
Yeah. Could have had someone come hang on the rim for a little bit just to see how that was going to go. But yeah, so that's not ideal. But regarding the actual lifting, Kaler did walk away with the biggest deadlift of
220 weight class.
Yeah, the 220 weight. 220 with a 950.2 pound deadlift.
Which it was a very convincing white light deadlift.
Yeah, it wasn't like a soft lockout, like you
No.
have shaky knees.
No.
It wasn't like it got like it was almost a lockout in the game. The down command,
Right. Which that seems to be what those deadlifts are like a lot of times, but his was not. Like to me, I was like, well, he left no doubt.
Yeah, that's how
I
feel like you've seen a lot of deadlift records that are much more questionable than that.
Right.
So I didn't even think I really even saw anyone complaining about it even.
I don't think
Which is
there's
also
anything...
the surprising thing is like
I think he did it well enough that you actually people couldn't even.
I mean, other than the fact that it wasn't a Jefferson
Right,
deadlift.
I was just
like
gonna say. Kaler did ask us, though. I don't know if I talked to you about this. He asked us he slid into our DMs and asked what the world record Jefferson deadlift is.
Yeah.
And he wanted to know. I don't know the answer to that.
It's like
but if
like
Kaler
a mystical...
wants to know that, there's only one reason he wants to know that. It's so he can
begin an intense training regimen to
exactly. Other thing about Kaler though, secret weapon. He was wearing the Massenomics deadlifter shirt the week prior to his training.
Yep.
He was deadlifting in the deadlifter shirt.
And the next week he hits an all-time world record. Coincidence? Kind of hard to draw that conclusion.
That's true.
A coincidence. So
causation, correlation.
Absolutely. We'll just say yes.
Yes, both.
There's no room for it to not be the reason.
They are directly tied.
Yeah.
Having the shirt and deadlifting 950 pounds.
Yeah. So huge congrats to him for
that was pretty cool.
For
I feel like that Kaler is a lifter that it's hard not to like.
Oh,
think
for
so?
sure.
Like,
yeah.
I think most people would be pretty pumped to
like,
see him.
He seems like pretty mellow for the most part.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he gets excited about his lifts, but he's not like freaking out and screaming at people. Like, he just seems like a pretty easygoing guy.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, like he's doing that and he makes it seem like that effortless.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to not be.
When he got that 950, it was almost like, geez, is he even gonna celebrate? Like he didn't do it, and then he kind of paused and didn't say or do anything, and then he kind of let out a scream. Celebration
and he ended with a 2,085 pound total.
Yeah,
which, really good total.
Half of it was from his deadlift.
For actually weighing in at 214, it says here.
Almost half of it was from his deadlift.
Yeah, it's just the ratio, how those things work. Yeah, that's crazy though. And kind of the deadlift battle was between him and Yuri Belkin, and I think a lot of people were like going into, he squatted 914, which is a massive squat. He weighed 227.9, like almost in the 220 weight class.
Yeah.
But Yuri just doesn't seem to really care about weight classes at all.
Right. So
he squats 914.9, benches 507, which those two right there are crazy. So already he's at like what, a 1420 total.
Yeah.
With those two.
and he's like,
and he's the guy
one
that
of the
can,
best deadlifters
and
in the
he's
world.
the guy that can deadlift 900 and some pounds.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, are we going to be looking at like 23, high 23s from him? Like what's going to be here? Like, is he going to take the all-time Wilks from Zahir for a guy?
Right.
Because that's there, it seems like.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people were surprised when he deadlifted 881.8. And I think there's probably a number of factors there. Maybe the biggest one is that a lot of his like really recent like big deadlifts have been in those WRPF meets where they have these crazy plates that don't exist anywhere besides the WRPF.
Yep.
And these were on actual calibrated plates. And, maybe he was just thinking like, well, this is all I got to do to be the top guy.
Yeah,
so
I would bet that's part of it. Like, I bet he came here to win $20,000. Like, I bet he, he probably cared more about winning $20,000 than whether he deadlifts over or under 900. I also think the 915-pound squat probably has a factor. Like, that's got to be a squat PR for him. Like, he's probably beat up after, like...
Let's see. Yeah, best squat. Yeah, that is his best squat.
Like, is it by 30 pounds?
The best one I'm seeing before that, he... not counting single ply, his best one was 881. So, yeah.
So it's a
35. Yeah.
So I would tend to believe he was prioritizing his squat training over the recent history, and probably not. And, you know, because of that, his deadlifting training probably had to take a back seat. And, like, it is powerlifting. It's not a deadlifting competition. So, like, you know,
it is the point of the sport is to put up a total.
So what was his total then?
It was still 20. Where are we at here, Yuri? 23:03.8.
Okay.
Like,
is that a PR total for him
total.
or not?
It's got to be total. Well, yeah. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
So he hit a PR total. Yeah. And he won the money. He won $20,000.
Yeah, actually, it's a pretty good. It's about a 30-pound PR.
Yeah.
27, I guess. He had that meet where he had a 970 deadlift,
right.
but that was in Russia under probably optimal conditions for him too. So,
right.
But yeah, I mean, that's still a crazy performance out of him.
Yeah, that is nuts.
That's the one that's just like hard to wrap your head around. So, like, this guy that weighs 227, and just when looking at him, you would never guess that he can squat 915, bench over 500, and then still basically pull 900 too. Like, it's just so hard to like believe that guy can.
Yeah, and he
do all
weighs
that.
227 pounds, 100 pounds less than the other people.
And he's not like, he doesn't walk around looking like the most jacked guy you've ever seen in your life. You know, he's just like a freak.
He is an anomaly.
Yeah. And an anomaly really is the best way to say it. I don't know if there's anyone that has like that combination.
No.
While still just kind of seeming like the unassuming guy, you know?
Yeah. I agree.
And then, you know, the guy's side, I don't even really know what happened on the guy's side outside of that, really.
Yeah. I know Andy Huang dumped a 881 squat over his head.
And he totaled 2149.
That Legrand put up a pretty good total. I don't know. Yeah, that's about the...
I mean,
a lot of the people weren't competing that we were following up
several
to.
guys totaling over 2,000, which is, you know, always a good sign. But probably where things were the craziest with this meet, though, was the women.
Yes.
And, like, specifically the battle between Mariana and Steffi.
Yep.
And I think it was like this, what was it, the deadlift, or was it the squat or the deadlift? I think it was the squats. Like, the all-time world record was broken like 4 or 5 times between the two of them.
Right.
Like, during that. And it's insane to believe. So they were both in the 123-pound weight class.
Right.
Really hard to believe. Mariana squats 573. Like, and I think that was like a 60-pound PR for her or something. Like, not even in the same ballpark as to what she was doing before.
As a 123-pound woman. Is this correct? That is more than any 123-pound male has ever squatted before?
Yeah, it's more than any male in that weight class. And I think even the one above it, too, is that what they said.
But how many? There's
no
men
the thing,
in
like,
those
how
weight
many
classes.
guys? Yes, how many guys do those? Like, your sample pool of people is so small.
Right. But still, it's pretty crazy that there hasn't been any men that have squatted that much.
Yeah, I would guess in the untested 123, if there actually is the same for guys.
Right.
Untested 123 pounders, there's got to be so few of those. You know?
Yeah.
I think IPF has is that their smallest one?
Dalton Lecoq, I think, is in like that weight class.
Yeah.
You know.
And there's that little guy from Russia that like wins every year, and I cannot like starts with an F, of Federico or whatever his name is, and I don't think he's anywhere near though. Like those numbers are just crazy. But yeah, so Mariana comes out, squats 573. Steffi does 507. PRs for both of them. Going into bench, Mariana benches 292. Steffi benches 242.
How about that, Steffi, though? I believe that's probably a PR on both lifts.
Yes.
And she gets done and she's like, damn, I'm 100 and some pounds behind her.
Yeah.
Like, I'm having like the best meet of my life, doing everything I'm supposed to, I'm sure she wasn't looking at it that way. That's not how you can go into it.
You still gotta like have that in your mind a little bit, like,
yeah,
why is this happening?
Especially when it's like, I am doing everything perfectly.
Because I don't think it was known ahead of time that Mariana was going to be in the 123-pound weight class. I think that was kind of a surprise.
She cut down to that.
Yeah, I think that was kind of a last-minute surprise. So, yeah, that probably wasn't the outcome you were expecting. And then deadlift is, at this point, it's like, who knows what Mariana can do? She's like just destroying everything. But that is where Steffi finally got her, and that was with Steffi had a 529, Mariana had a 485. Still crazy lifts.
Yeah.
Mariana finishes with a 1,350-pound total for a 720 Wilks score. Now,
beating what was the prior world record?
Well,
Wilks?
she had the old world record, didn't she? Or did Steffi have the old?
No, Stacy Burr had it.
Oh yes, yeah, she did. Okay, so
that
Stacey
she had broke it at
had
the Arnold.
The old. So the old one that Stacy Burr had just broke was 668. So the record was shattered by 60 Wilks points. Like,
that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Like, it was a 10% improvement.
Right.
It's like everyone's running 10-second 100-meter dashes, and you're coming with a 9-second.
Right.
Like, that's not even in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
And like Steffi Cohn, for having the crazy performance that she did, had 698 as her Wilks, and
she would have shattered the record.
She would have shattered the record.
Well, she did too.
Well,
but
yes.
Like,
and
had Mariana not even been competing, you would have been like, man, Steffi crushed that record.
Yeah, and
but
like
she got beat by 30 points.
Yes, and she missed her last deadlift, so she would have if she got her last deadlift, she would have broke a 700 Wilks, making her, the first or second woman to do it, depending on what order.
What was that last deadlift that was that like 540?
I think it was like 540. So she left about 10 pounds out there.
She pulls for so long before it comes off the ground.
That's what I don't
get.
Like,
how is that even possible?
That's what I don't understand. Is like, what's happening in that first 3 seconds when nothing's going on?
And then it just starts to go.
I don't pull sumo.
Yeah.
But even the people that I do know that pull sumo, like, it doesn't weight like that.
I feel like her technique must be flawless in order for that to work that way.
Most people
like literally no flaw in the technique.
Yeah, it has to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like, who else is stuck to the ground and just keeps going and then it goes?
Right.
It's so weird. And like, sumo is like the stance that's going to happen. Like, that's not going to happen conventional where you just are skinny.
Can you imagine someone pulling on it for that long
and
not
then
moving?
It goes?
Yeah.
It's like, what were they doing for that first 3 seconds?
Yeah,
But,
and her form, and she doesn't like break form and then it moves. She like stays perfectly.
She does. She is like truly a master at what she's doing. It's just, it's so weird to see how it works like that. But now the crazy thing of all this is the Wilks score. And it's like, it feels like you're just watching the formula break under itself.
Yeah.
It's like,
I agree with that.
Has science gone too far?
Yeah.
But it just feels like it's falling apart. And I'm not saying women aren't good at powerlifting or anything like that. I'm just saying the formula is like now starting to not work at all.
Yeah.
And like if you look at open powerlifting, the top 10 Wilks scores of all time, 7 of them are female, 3 of them are male. Okay, maybe women just are better at lifting than men. Maybe that's what that really tells us. Women are better than men. But like, to just show, like, okay, so what do we got to do? Like, who's the next closest man here? Like, Zahir isn't really powerlifting right now, so we'll just say Yuri. He's the next most active competitor.
What's his best Wilks now?
So his best Wilks now is 629. So he's almost a full
100 points.
100 points behind. So I'm just curious, like,
if he could maintain the same body weight.
So
what
at
total?
209. Oh, and that best Wilks he ever had was in 2017. So let's just say let's do a quick Wilks calculator just to even get an idea of like what this would even take. Okay, if he's a male and he weighs 219 pounds, and let's say he lifts 2,800 pounds, I'm just totally guessing, that would give him a 774, which is too much. He needs to be at 720. So let's say 2,600. That would give him.
There we go.
So he would have to lift 2,600.
So he'd have to break the world record by 100 pounds.
Of any lifter, like regardless of weight class. Which
Andrei Milanichev's world record. And he'd have to do it weighing in the 220-pound weight class.
But there's a lot of crazy things happening in lifting, but I don't know if that will ever happen.
But what the numbers to actually be there?
Well, you'd have to squat and
1,000,
you'd have to squat and deadlift 1,000 and bench 600.
weighing sub 220. You know, it's not. I would go as
is he a machine? Or?
Well, I would go as far as to say it's impossible, right? Like I don't think that's something.
I don't think that's impossible for a person to do. But I think it's impossible for a 219-pound person to do.
Right. Would it be possible for someone of half Thor's size to do?
I think if half Thor says, like, I pray to God I'd never get hurt, and I'm completely dedicating my life to powerlifting, I'd say, well, he could probably do that.
But what would his Wilks?
His body weight?
What if you did that weighing 430 pounds?
At 430 pounds, doing that, his Wilks is 627.
Right.
Which
so
brings
what series
him, which
at
brings
right
him
now?
right
back to 100 pounds under.
And which brings him under what Yuri's Wilks is now already.
What would Thor have to total to break the 700 Wilks?
So at 3,000, he would have a 724 Wilks.
There you go. Back to impossible. You know, like that's not going to ever happen.
Well, what about Mr. 3K14?
Multiply.
Well, Tanner, you didn't put any rules on this.
But so it's kind of like it is, I would say, as close to impossible as you get for a man to be able to break that into that 700 number, right? I mean,
well, you just have to bench, squat, and deadlift 1,000 pounds each.
Right. Raw.
Yeah. So, I think it's safe to say under current conditions, a man will probably never hit a 700 Wilks.
Right. But so is the point then that women are stronger than men, or is it that, you know, like, is Mariana much stronger than Yuri, Andre, Hafthor, that much stronger than they could ever be? Like, they literally could not be capable of doing that.
It brings up the great debate.
Yeah.
And you know, because the Wilks Formula is just a man-made thing that was made at some random point in time by a guy, I would like to think that the calculation is probably flawed.
Yeah.
In the way that I still think it's a pretty good tool for measuring things.
Yeah.
But
these are pretty extreme.
And these are the absolute, these are probably pushing, I think it's safe to say, pushing the formula in ways that was never expected to be used.
Right.
You know, I think this brings up the whole thing of the debate people always have is like, there needs to be something better, but no one knows what that is.
IPF points.
Oh, you're right. Yes. How do I forget? Yeah, it is IPF points.
Yeah.
She probably has 10 million IPF points. So,
how many Schrute bucks?
Or any other imaginary number you want to use to compare other people to other people. But it still is insanely impressive. I mean, just the total, a 1,350-pound total by a 123-pound woman. Like, that doesn't seem possible.
No.
Even if it was a 123-pound man, I'd be like, that still seems really, really high. Like, too high for a guy. Yeah. And then, like, they're just, women are crazy good at powerlifting.
Yeah. At least a few of them here.
At least 7 of the top 10 are.
But so had Mariana, Steffi, Stacy, and Cece all been competing in this, like it looked like they're going to at one point in time, how cool would that have been? How much cooler would that have been?
It seems like at this point in time, you could say like it would be one of the greatest women powerlifting meets in the history of the world ever.
Yeah, it would be so.
May ever be. Because how many times do you get all 4 of them together, assuming that would happen?
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe next year, if that is a thing.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
They're talking about at Big Dogs, they're going to have a
women's division.
Yeah, but it's going to be only Australian women this first year. I think. Yeah,
that'd be cool.
And I think it was maybe like Lady Cats or something,
or
something like that.
So there is So like, where that gets interesting now is is it just the total though?
Well, yeah, and then if it's just the total, Steffi and Mariana
they're not
competitive.
In the picture.
Cece's, is the only one in that group that can compete in the total.
And even then, on a total, she's on a whole different playing field than them.
Right.
Her biggest total is almost 1,600.
Right.
So, she's looking at between 250 and 350 more pounds than them. 170 more than Stacy Burr.
Yeah. But like if it is just a total, Cece's the only one that, if it's a total competition, Cece's the only one that would ever have a chance of going competing for that.
Yeah. Then, if it is just total, well, I think there's also women with totals bigger than those two.
Right, exactly.
So that's where it gets tricky again. So okay, yeah, dude. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't have to be in the position to make those decisions because they wouldn't be fun.
We'll
and
just,
someone's going to
we'll
be
just
mad and
sit here
upset.
and judge
We
the
will
people
just
that do
judge from afar.
Yeah. We'll just cast our opinions
with
at
our
them.
really polarizing opinions over here.
We don't know what the right answer is, but we don't like what you're doing now. We're not going to suggest anything better, though.
No. Just criticize. Tanner, we're at like the hour mark right now
Holy
already.
crap.
Our color commentary is just running on and on
That's,
here.
when you got good stuff like this to say, you have to say it. What do we have time for any segment?
We can hit a segment or two. Do we have anything else to say about the U.S. Open? I think we kind of covered it all.
No.
Also, if you
There's
guys
some-
really want some in-depth coverage, hit up another podcast. They probably will
Went into it
go
more.
much more in-depth on these things.
You probably, if you've been listening to us for a while, you kind of knew what you were going to get from us on our U.S. Open coverage. So don't act surprised. We could do underrated, overrated, right?
Ooh,
in the sake of time, I could skip the rules. I don't like.
I don't know. I don't make the rules, so I can't say that throwing out the rules.
This
is
week,
allowed.
I'm just going to paraphrase the
Okay,
rules. I don't
okay.
know if that's. Would have to consult the rules further to know if
It's
that's
kind of like we're in like a chaotic,
Yeah.
anarchy over here. And the rules don't apply.
I've been so accustomed to reading the rules, though, now that paraphrasing them is getting hard, and they're so long. Even the cliff notes of the rules is
That is also the problem.
is long. But basically, I asked Tommy some topics here. Some of them are lifting related. Some of them are not. Most of them at this point in time are no longer lifting related, but we do
evolved.
sprinkle them in. He has to decide whether those items are underrated or overrated. There's no real gray area. He has to come up with an answer of one or the other at the end. He has his druthers. I remember that much.
Yep, the druthers are always key.
And that's the gist of it. Stick around next week, and I'll give you the more detailed rules, though, just as a refresher.
Or you could go back and listen to last week's if you did need a refresh.
Like
You
the
could
last 10
pause. You
weeks,
could
yeah.
pause right now, go listen to the weeks before
Yeah.
rules, and then come back.
Okay, topic number 1: underrated or overrated? Food delivery services. And I don't know the names of them. You might.
I mean, there's Uber Eats
Yeah,
and
okay.
all types of things.
Yeah.
Mostly things we don't have in our area of the country.
That's why I don't know that's why I don't know the names of any of them.
Yeah, Postmates, things like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
with me, all right, I'm a cheap guy. Even like the places in town
Yes.
that do deliver, I'm cheap. So I'm like, I don't want to pay the delivery fee and
No.
tip the guy, like, because that's at least $5 right there, and all of a sudden, like it's essentially fast food, is now getting significantly more expensive. Convenience wise, it's really, really nice. You know,
Yeah.
like what's better than to sit on your couch doing nothing and to keep sitting on your couch doing nothing and someone brings you food? Like that's
Yeah.
like the perfect.
That you didn't have to make either.
Exactly. You don't have to make it. You don't have to go get stuff for it. You don't have to look for things. You just do nothing. Like that's the perfect situation.
Yeah.
So the convenience factor, so underrated. There's nothing better than sitting around and getting food brought to you. It's so awesome.
How do those actually work, though? If you order from Qdoba and they are tied to one of these services, do you have to line both things up?
No,
Or is it
I
like,
don't think so. I don't
Oh, yeah.
actually, because I've never used
Yeah.
one because we don't
don't
have
have
that
it.
here. I don't know for sure how it works,
Yeah.
but I think there's some.
I understand the
system.
concept, but
Yeah, I get the concept, but I don't know the ins and outs of it. We're sheltered from the world, but just because I can't be a part of it, I'm gonna say it's overrated. It's
Agreed.
expensive, so it's overrated.
That's the part that would get me is
the
just like you
cost.
said, I don't like the paying for
I mean,
delivery.
now
as
that
it
you've
is.
maxed out your insurance deductible, Tanner, you probably money doesn't matter to you about anything.
That's true.
So.
Hog wild. Underrated or overrated? The Avengers movie.
To me, this kind of falls in with Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it before, is that I was a guy that didn't really watch Game of Thrones. I am now halfway through the third season. So I'm cruising through.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. There's something to say about a good story is a good story.
Yes.
Whether you hate medieval stuff or whatever your view is on the time era and the genre, a good story is still a good story.
Right.
Game of Thrones is a good story. But at the time, I think I said the hype people put around it is so overrated.
Yep.
And now, I don't follow all the Marvel movies because there's 10 million of them, and they come out all
You
the time.
can't.
And it kind of
I
seems like
can't.
it's not special anymore
Yeah.
because there's one coming out every month. I'm
Yeah.
like, we're still supposed to be excited about this because one just came
Who
out a
are
month
these
ago.
characters even?
It's like, this is
Yeah.
almost a TV show. It
Yeah.
feels like now. Are they shot perfectly? Yes. Are the special effects about the best in the world? Yes. Do they have the biggest cast in the world? Yes. Are they based on great comic books that have tons of history and fans and all this stuff? Yes, they have all that stuff. But are they hyped like insane amounts? Is like the world telling you should like this? Is everyone like just saying this is what we're supposed to like? Yeah, those things are all there too. And that's what gets annoying. And when it comes out, just like with Game of Thrones, you get a whole slew of memes based around it.
Yeah.
And it's like memes that I don't really care about.
Yeah.
Like all the Infinity Stone memes and all that stuff. I don't really care about those memes anymore. They're probably funny if you follow all of it. But I don't follow all of it. And then now, probably the worst part of it, this is probably the part that is the worst, is the people that are now like, well, it actually isn't the best one. The one from 3 years ago was far superior. And it's like, okay, like now you're being like you love the thing, you love the series. Everyone like is saying this is the best one. We're like, no.
Is everyone sitting back waiting to hear everyone else's opinion on how many stars they give it out of 5?
Let's see what local person from town X. Let's see what their review is.
Yeah.
I hope they put it up on social media soon. Oh, they did. All right. Oh, they thought the one from 3 years ago. Oh, and in case anyone wanted to know what wasn't some of their favorites, they also listed some of their least favorite ones too. So we now have the full spectrum. And so it's like seeing those things out there. I'm like, why is it like? It's overrated to me. I want to see it someday. I do. But it's just the hive mind thing of like everyone's got to get behind something. Like it ruins it for me. So I'm saying it's overrated, but I am going to watch it someday.
I agree with all of that.
And I have no problem if you like it.
No,
The hype around it drives me nuts.
Right. Underrated or overrated? Gluten.
Way underrated because everyone should be getting as much gluten in their diet as possible. It's one of those things too, like gluten and cleanses and your liver and what it can and can't process and all this stuff. It's just made up marketing things.
Yeah.
It's just marketers out there preying on people's stupid tendencies. And actually, this is really funny. I had a friend in college that he would get really, really drunk, and for some reason, after he'd drink like 20 beers, he'd puke, and he thought that he was maybe gluten intolerant. But he didn't
turns
call it.
out he's case of beer intolerant.
He didn't call it gluten. He called it glycerin. So it was like the dumbest series of things that you could ever put together as your argument for being sick from drinking a lot of beer. But gluten, I mean, if you have actual celiacs, okay, that's one thing. But I would guess this is totally a made-up number, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's not far from the truth. 9 out of 10 people that think they have some level of gluten intolerance probably have 0.
Yeah.
Because they're probably like just pounding sweets and other like candy all day long that's just loaded with just disgusting
processed sugar.
Gluten, whatever has it in it. And they just, it's just something people use to blame their stuff on.
Yeah.
You know, everyone needs a scapegoat. Gluten's that scapegoat. So,
Yep.
What was it? Gluten, was that the one?
Yeah.
Gluten is underrated or overrated. Could be both, actually.
Yeah, it just depends on what
I think blaming gluten on things is overrated.
Yeah.
I think
gluten is underrated
as a dietary supplement is very underrated.
Yeah. Okay. All right, this last one is a recurring theme to underrated, overrated. If you remember, think back, Tommy and listeners along, we had the penny at one point in time. We talked about how Canada no longer mints the penny, I believe. It's still allowed in circulation. Mm-hmm. We then also had the $10 U.S. bill at one point in time, an underrated or overrated. We discussed that. Today's, you have to think about it carefully before answering about this particular currency bill. It is the $2 United States bill.
With Mr. Jefferson on it.
Yes.
Is a classic bill. A lot of people don't know it exists even. I would venture to guess on this one. $2 bills are probably underrated because I think most people nowadays, if you gave them one, would be like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Get this fake money out of here. Also a good question. Why does it still exist even?
I don't know if they meant the $2, if they meant new $2 bills or not.
It could actually be done.
I don't know. I can't remember. I don't know. When I worked when I was a loan officer in a bank, I would get I would
People would pay their loans in $2
Well,
bills.
no, I would occasionally change in money and just carry $2 bills around in my pocket because people would think, like, if I would owe anyone money, it'd be kind of funny to give them, like, I'd give them like $20 in $2 bills, and it's almost like, is this real?
Yeah.
But if I remember right, like most of the ones I would get, they'd be in just fine condition, but a lot of them would be like from the set, older.
Oh, they would be that old,
older
actually?
notes, yeah. But I don't know. Maybe I'm not sure. But a big thing is people would come into the bank and get them if they're going on a trip to Mexico, because they would use if you're staying in an all-inclusive.
Oh, they get them for like tips?
Yeah, they give them for tips.
Really? But why not just more dollars?
Well, because you can your stack would be half as thick. I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know. I've
is to have
never
a
done
fat
that.
stack, though,
but
right?
there's just like many people that would come in and do that same thing.
Wow, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
It appears to still be in currency or in circulation, or like still being printed.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like it's still going. So
highlight though is Thomas Jefferson. Of course.
That is, of course, the highlight. I think legend has it there is a reference to there is a deadlift bar somewhere. If it's like when you look at the penny, if you look really close, you can see Lincoln. You ever notice that? Do you know that?
On what now?
On the penny. If you look really close, you can see him on the front. In the what's it, the Lincoln Monument Memorial.
He's back there.
There's a little speck for him. You can see if you look really close at the penny, it's on there. I think if you look close enough at the $2 bill, there is a deadlift bar in the background.
I've wondered if that wasn't the case. Yeah.
Actually, I'm blowing it up right now.
Oh yeah. This is kind of like the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
only
Oh
on
yeah.
Massenomics
See,
podcast.
it makes a
bending,
star of them
yeah.
behind the 2 here. It's a bunch of deadlift bars crossed.
Oh,
very cool.
This is crazy. Is Nicolas Cage here anywhere?
Nick Cage. Yeah. So yeah, $2 bills incredibly underrated.
I agree. Very true.
Plus, it's a good looking bill.
It is a good looking bill. Old Thomas. It just looks like a deadlifter.
He does. Built like one too.
The gleam in his eyes.
Built like one. That is for sure.
He had long arms for his body.
Yeah. Really advantageous as a deadlifter.
Especially for when you deadlift between you in the crotch.
Yep. A little extra clearance. Never hurt nobody.
So you did say underrated on the $2
$2 bills
bill.
are underrated.
Okay. I do have a little teaser. We'll wrap this episode up, but we'll just tease the whole thing. I do have to talk about, I just thought of it now, the Jefferson Territory within the United States. A few people have brought this to my attention.
Wow.
And
I've not heard of this.
We'll just save the whole thing for next time. There is a.
I enjoy me some history.
There is a portion of the United States now that would like to become their own state.
Oh boy.
Yes.
Some of those types of people, huh?
So we'll get to that. Get to a little more specifics on that next time, maybe.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up.
All right, that wraps us up here. Check out our website and purchase any of our T-shirts. Just about everything's in stock. The last thing we came out was with the deadlifter shorts. We have run very low on those, but we have restock orders back on the way in. Same with our lift shorts. So be on the lookout for restock on both of those if you're looking for any size that we don't have currently. Like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, and most importantly, follow us on Instagram. Tommy, what do you got for the Instagram handle?
At Tomahawk_D.
And make sure to follow the official Massenomics page at Massenomics, and we will catch you next time for episode 162.
See ya.
You just heard the Massenomics podcast. With your ears, you're welcome. Check us out on Facebook, find us on Instagram at Massenomics, and make sure you visit Massenomics.com and buy some of that sweet Massenomics gear. From your friends at Massenomics Studio, home of the world's strongest podcast, stay strong.